Hello and welcome to the Home Hero Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about how to manage your time as a handyman and a business owner. It is a challenge that, at least in my experience, I didn't really know was going to be a problem or a challenge until you're in it and you're like, oh my gosh, like there's a lot of variables and things I need to consider as I'm running a business and balancing clients and making money versus working on the business and spending time with family and things you enjoy in life. So that's going to be the topic for today's episode. Coby, I'm going to kind of open this up with asking you, in your 4 or 5 years as a handyman general contractor, um, like give me a lay of the land of like what was your kind of experience, like managing your time, and like how was your experience and kind of any tips, tricks, like challenges that you faced out of the gate before we dive into more actionable kind of takeaways we can pull for our listeners?
Yeah, time management as a handyman contractor is it's difficult no matter how you look at it. And early on, I was going to say early on especially, but it's hard to manage your time no matter what. Early on, you're
Mm,
wearing a bunch of hats. You've got a bunch of different jobs to do, and usually you don't have the money to take some of those hats off in the beginning. You
mhm.
just have several jobs that's all on you to get done. And then fast forward, you hire people and you take some of those hats off and you're delegating. You still run into time management issues because now you get more people to manage. You might be doing more projects. You got more stuff on the calendar. So it's a kind of a persistent thing that doesn't go away. You just get better at managing it. But early on, I mean, the thing that comes to mind is you're juggling. Okay, I know I've got to do marketing to get the leads, to get the projects. Okay, now I've got to go out and do these estimates or sales calls, whatever it looks like. Okay, now I've got to actually go do the work, but I got to keep up with the marketing. And I'm on a job site today, but somebody wants an estimate. And if I'm out doing the estimate and then I'm not on the job getting the project done, and then the marketing falls behind, and I've got estimates to write, and you got a million things to do. And it feels like you're on this hamster wheel of you got a bunch of different jobs, and you fill those seats, and you have to do them all. There's no way
Yeah.
around it. You can't just neglect any one of them to make more time for the other. So it's difficult.
So
Yeah,
leaning into like let's pull so I think the natural biggest challenge is it came out so clearly there, man, and I laughed. I resonate with my experience. I'm sure all the listeners out there of like, you got to market to get the leads, you got to get this estimate out, you got this missed call from a client, you're kind of running a little bit behind on this job, and so then you got the next job, and then you get home and there's dinner. Who's making dinner? There's just so much that demands your attention and focus. Um, One kind of more tactical question, just to address real quick, because this is a common one that we get, is estimates. And then I'll have you expand from here. So first, the more tactical question is, was did you find that managing your time became easier when you blocked off, like, this is when I do my estimates? Did you ever kind of have set estimate times, or days? And then kind of going beyond that, um, I'd love to kind of explore like what did you find to be successful, or that at least improved your world of chaos as a business owner? Not just you specifically. We're all starting this world of chaos, and then we find new chaos to solve as we grow.
yeah.
But expand into kind of more general tips and things that you found to be conducive. But let's start with estimates, because that's a big one for people, because it's money that could be waiting, the next job, and so it kind of demands your attention.
Yeah. So early on, I tried. Obviously, I was like, okay, this is a problem. I can't be in two places at once, obviously. And so early on, I tried the kind of time blocking thing where I say, okay, from every afternoon from 3 to 5 p.m., I'm taking off from the job site and I'm running around doing my estimates between those 2 hours, so maybe one a day. For me personally, what I found is 3 o'clock rolls around and it's like, I'm like 90% done with this project, but I've got an estimate on the schedule, and now I've got to buzz out of here, and I just needed to wait 20 more minutes for this coat of drywall mud to dry, and then I could just wrap up the whole project. But I've got this estimate I've got to go to, and I told them I'd be there, and I'm going to be there. So I go tell the homeowner, hey, I'll be back in the in the morning to finish this. I'll be here for 30 minutes, and then I'll be done. And I hated that so much, like being so close. So I didn't want to stack stuff towards the end of the day, because sometimes it just makes sense. Like even if it's you're at work 30 minutes later than normal, just to wrap up the project, and that's a lot more difficult when you've got other appointments, that are hard time set on the calendar, that you want to be there, and honoring those set times for estimates. That's one of the more important things, especially when you're getting started. It doesn't, I shouldn't say especially, it doesn't change. You need to honor those time commitments. And there was a few occasions where, I call home like, hey, is it cool if I'm there 30 minutes, later? Like, oh yeah, I'm home for the evening. That's completely okay. And if it works out that way, awesome. But I would do my best to not do that. So what I ended up doing, this worked well, and I kept doing this even once I was up to 9 employees. We kept this schedule. We worked 4 10-hour shifts. We worked Monday through Thursday.
Okay.
We'd work those 10 hours, so it's your 40-hour work week. And when I had employees, the guys got their 3-day weekend, and they loved it.
Yeah.
And on Friday, that's when I would do all of my estimates and that sort of thing. And if I got those prospects or leads that weren't available on a Friday, or just didn't, they wanted to do an evening during the weekday or something, honestly, in my situation, that was the day I did estimates. And I just didn't worry about it during the week. That was my day to work on the computer, catch up on things that I was behind on, actually go out and do the estimate calls. And that worked super, super well for me and my business.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. I love, what you said, honoring time commitments. That's so true. In our last episode, I, kind of mentioned a few times that longevity focus, that long-term business success, it comes down to the fundamentals, and honoring time commitments is one of those fundamentals in my opinion. So I love that. I also love the 4-day work week for the guys, the morale, to have a 3-day weekend, get all your work done Monday through Thursday, the work's still getting done.
And on that, not, I mean, a little bit of a tangent. This is more time management from like a production standpoint. We were doing more remodels and things, so we were there for on projects for multiple days or weeks at a time. But that's one less day of drive time, setup time, and cleanup time. So you end up with more working hours in the same 40 than you would do in the 5, 8-hour shifts. So a little bit of a tangent.
Yeah.
But for anybody that's doing, larger projects or remodels where you're there for multiple days at a time, we found it to be a lot more efficient from a labor standpoint.
Cool. I love that, man. What is so outside of the that kind of routine there, the 4-day week or work week, and then the Friday is kind of your estimates, and of course being flexible with people that just couldn't do Fridays and evenings. I mean, that's pretty easy to swing for most owners. What was the biggest positive change that you made personally as the owner to better manage your time, with a really focus on that difference of, like everyone says, working in the business or on the business, spending more time, with Margot, your soon to be bride. What was the biggest positive change you made personally as the owner to better manage your schedule?
Yeah, so the simple one was the 4 10-hour shifts, and then to personally manage my schedule. I had a lot of problems with getting distracted by shiny objects, and like, oh, I need a new logo. I don't need a new logo. It's not going to make any meaningful difference on the business, but I'm spending time on it anyways. So just kind of checking myself and running everything through the filter of how does this actually improve the business in a way that actually leads to the bottom line. And if it wasn't that, then I would say, okay, it's sexy and a new logo would be sweet, but it's not actually going to make a difference in my profit, so I can put more money in my pocket. So I'm not doing it now. Maybe I'll do it in the future. Um, so uh, I think when it comes to time management, when you're in those early phases, because in my opinion, this is probably the hardest time to manage your time when you're juggling that. I got to be on the job site, but I've also got to do the estimates, and have the time to work on the business. I think the biggest lever you can pull there is adjust your pricing, which seems maybe counterintuitive or like it's not a direct effect. But you have to realize, like, okay, if I'm working my 8 hour day every day, doing projects so I can bring enough money into the business to, you know, turn a profit and have money in my pocket and whatever else. Um, if you adjust your pricing so you can work a 5 hour, 6 hour day on the job site, have the same profit at the end of the day, and then you can take those other 2 or 3 hours at the end of the day to do all of the other things that you need to do, or the beginning of the day, or whatever it looks. Take a full day off, whatever it looks like. If you are charging the correct amount, you'll have a little bit more freedom and flexibility to spread your projects out a little bit more, and not stack days so full. So you're maximizing your productivity or whatever that looks like. If that makes sense.
Mhm.
That felt a little rambly.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So it's more of a function of like if I want to save, 10% of my day, like let's just say you're working 10-hour days. You want to say you need an extra hour per day, like you're just drowning. Um, to just literally just look at your pricing, increase it by 10%, theoretically save like an hour. Like that could be a variable one could kind of pull that lever and adjust to not change your revenue, but have more time.
Yeah, like if I okay, I know I need 2 hours a day to work on the business to really move the needle. How much do I need to make in revenue per month to cover my overhead, have a profit, and pay
Mhm.
myself by a reasonable wage. Um, and you divide that monthly number by how many working hours you can afford
Mhm.
during the month. Working hours on the job site, and then that's your hourly rate, and that gives you the freedom to be able to, with confidence, say I'm working in the field 6 hours a day, and I've got these extra two I can work on the
Mhm.
business or estimates or whatever it looks like.
That's good stuff. And I'd point people to we've got a pricing calculator on our website, so handymanmarketingpros.com. It's actually built by Coby and introduces all the variables he learned in his business that can help you kind of identify the hourly rate, but you could use that as a kind of a resource tool to help in this. Um, one of my biggest takeaways here that you mentioned, it almost seems like the big one of the biggest positive changes was having an honest filter on your time. um, One of my favorite questions, especially recently with AI and technology, and everyone just gets so dang excited about it. But the honest filter there is it making me more money? Is it by actually adding revenue or saving me time? And so it's a good filter to have, especially when you're already busy, to weed out those shiny objects and the things that aren't fundamental to your business delivery and your growth. So I do love like just being honest with yourself about how wisely you're using your time. Um, I can't not bring up like, I see it all the time, but people get this reaction of like they pick up their phone, they start scrolling something, if they've got 10 seconds, I'm talking, and so I do think that there's really healthy, stable habits we can have with honest filters of how we're using our time that can keep us focused throughout the day. um, so conversely to kind of the bigger positive change, was there anything that was just one of your larger mistakes or a common mistake that you'd see as far as time management outside of chasing shiny objects? I know that's a big one for a lot of folks.
Yeah, I think the probably biggest mistake was um, not doing the things I've suggested sooner, like adjusting prices, to give myself the freedom to work less hours in the field, because you're still working on the business. It's still work. that you can be getting paid for, from the profit of the business. You're still paying yourself a reasonable wage if your pricing is um, is correct. But the biggest mistake I made was spending way too much time working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, working 8, 9, 10 hour day in the field doing projects, and then 6 p.m. I'm running around driving people's houses doing estimates, and then I'm going home at 7, 8 p.m. and I'm writing up the estimate and I'm emailing it to people, and doing that 6 days a week or whatever it looks like, um, and that's just not. I might have been putting the time into working on the business, or putting more man hours into things, or whatever it looks like, but they weren't quality hours because I was exhausted and burnt out. um, so that's probably the biggest thing, is like, I don't think that the solution early on most of the time is, man, I've got these 4 jobs that I have to do. um, I guess I'm just working, the same amount of hours that 4 people would in a normal work week.
Hmm.
I just don't think it's a good solution.
Yeah, that's actually a trap I see business owners of all kinds fall into, all shapes and sizes too. New established businesses, big businesses, small businesses, is this trap of time. Like, okay, like how many owners are just stuck in this proverbial, like it's just this 60, 80 hour week is just normal. Like, I don't think that that is. I think that's a sign of a problem in the business. For if you want a practical, profitable business that you can actually take a vacation, spend time with your family, just not be so engulfed, entrenched in the day to day every single day. I don't think it's a scalable thing. And so a trap is, you might be making. I made 100K last year, but you worked 80 hours a week. It's like, okay, so you had two 50K an hour or 50K jobs. How is that scalable? Even if you hire a full-time person, they take 40 hours, then you're left with your 40 hours making 50K. And the only way to grow that is to just work, ramp back up to that 80 hours. So I think it's a slippery slope, especially when you're doing a lot of day-to-day work, like in the field. So good observation there. So just an honest look at your time. And like, if I could theoretically hire somebody with this hash out on paper. If you're only clearing, if you're clearing 100K off of 80-hour weeks, then that's going to be a tricky financial situation to hire a full-time W-2 and then still have enough for, your family and your business, your profit.
And it comes back to pricing.
Yep,
If
it
you're
does.
working
Yep.
80 hours a week, and yeah, like you said, you're clearing 100K. You split that in half. That's the math isn't working there.
Yep.
You got to be charging. You got to be charging the appropriate amount, where you're paying yourself a livable wage. There's profit left over in the business. Your overhead's covered, and then that profit is what you would use to then take one of your hats off, to free up some. I say free up time, and I think this is another kind of trap we're adding on to it. Of, okay, I'm working 80 hours a week. I need to take one of these hats off to free up my time. And I think like the really wise, prudent business owners, when they say I'm going to take one of the hats off to free up my time, they're probably working a normal amount of hours, maybe slightly more, because running a business and starting a business is tough, and you're probably going to have 50, 60, 70 hour weeks, here and there when you're getting started. It shouldn't be a habit.
Absolutely.
But they're freeing up their time in their 40-hour week to go move on to higher leverage activities. It's not
Hmm.
like literally freeing up, okay, now I'm working 40 hours less a week. It's, I'm working the same hours, but I'm doing higher leverage activities because I delegated, these lower leverage, activities that don't move the needle as much.
Hmm.
And so, and I think that really just comes down to, are you pricing appropriately to have that profit left over, and make a good income while you're still working on the business.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the word leverage. And the way I like to view this is like every day you wake up, you pull a lever, and out the bottom at the end of the day is kind of the profit you made for, out of the business. And maybe it's easier to visualize per month. Every month you pull it and it's like, well, whatever the business profits, that's what you get. So what activities can we do to every day we put that same energy, that same 8, 10 hours, whatever that looks like, um, the same amount of time is the power there, but we should be working to get more on the output from that, or work towards an output that matches our business goals and what we have for our family, our personal finances, our company, et cetera. It's going to be different for everybody, but that visual it helps me to think about, is this activity helping me to kind of produce more from that same pull? And tied to that, one note I had is processes that you mentioned when you hire, and quality assurance. These things all help that things get done consistently at the quality you expect. That essentially ensures your product quality is uh, at expectation or above. So your clients are going to be happy and refer you and call you back, right? It's very important. Um, and the QA involved in that with the people, that's going to make that lever pull more valuable at the end as you do grow. Is you got to take your processes and your QA seriously, doing everything consistently to get the same expected output that meets your expectations that you've set for your client as far as the quality of the work you're doing, timeliness, etc. The last question I've got for you, Coby, is what recommendations do you have for like tools and tricks to facilitate a um, work towards a good like business owner time management? And the first example for me is like a calendar, like Google Calendar, et cetera. But was there any kind of tools or apps or anything that you use that helped you manage your time, be more productive as a business owner?
Sort of a like an efficiency thing. Spent and especially in remodels, larger projects, estimates are they can be very time intensive because you got to be super specific, and there's so many variables in a like a kitchen remodel, for example. So physically writing up the estimate would take a ton of time. So a good CRM, um, especially one if you can have sort of estimate templates in there. And so your manual input for each individual project is relatively minimal, can save a ton of time when it comes to the actual legwork of writing an estimate to give to somebody. And when I was doing handyman stuff, a big thing was is mostly just overcoming procrastination of writing an estimate. Once I had the CRM, started selling the project and submitting the estimate, giving the estimate to the client when I'm at their house doing the estimate instead of taking pictures and measurements and I go home and I'm doing the math and whatever, and then I email it to them. Saved a ton of time because I didn't procrastinate it. It's like, hey, I'll be out in the truck for 10 minutes and I'll come back in with an estimate. I'll be right back. And I just right then and there sit down and I do it in the truck. And I come in, and that way I'm not saving homework for myself when I get home at the end of the day. You get out of the way. Um, you'll probably increase your close rate by giving them this estimate in person. So it's kind of a double whammy. Um, and you get a typically a like a yes or no on the project. You don't have this thing like hanging over your head like, ooh, am I going to do this project or not? I'm able to put it on the calendar then. That was a big thing that saved me a ton of I mean time, but also just kind of like headache and stress. Like I gotta go home and do these estimates and email them out, and I hope they approve them. So doing them in person with a good CRM that you can kind of templatize, so minimal input.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Good CRM kind of business system. I wrote estimates take time. My encouragement for people too is any frequent like objections to an estimate or questions about certain things. Be honest with yourself of like, you know what I could just put a simple little FAQ at the bottom of every estimate that kind of covers all my bases, or have it on my website. Like that is going to prevent that extra time and mental space to be like, okay, well, I got to answer that guy's question. Like I get this all the time. Like just be honest of what are the repeatable things that you have to take time to do, and you send the output is nearly identical. Answering an FAQ is the best example here, the easiest kind of example. So be honest with those things and aggressively tackle these little activities, even if they could save you 1 to 2 minutes per time you do it. The mental space is more valuable than 1 to 2 minutes. Like if you looked at the hourly equivalent of whatever you make, like let's say $100 an hour is what you make. You took 2 minutes, it's $2. Okay. The value of your mental space that you're saving from all these little 2 minute things over the week that are repeatable, processable, the mental value of that is way beyond that $2. Like your stress and the tension and the distraction, removing focus. If it's processed, if it's got a template message, if it's already baked into the estimate, it's out of sight, out of mind. You can keep that focus on things that are going to be moving the needle. You're going to feel less stressed. You're going to feel more in control of your day. So there's certainly health behavioral benefits here that come into manage your time, which I'm glad I kind of went down here. I'd be remiss to say, talking about managing time, like you need to have like a healthy lifestyle is conducive to feeling in control of your day, waking up at a reasonable time, exercise, diet, like just not eating and terrible, drinking bad things, like doing things that are bad for your body, your mental health, your sleep. All these are important foundational variables to us as leaders, that if we're showing up every day tired, stressed, eating McDonald's hamburgers for lunch and then maybe that's it for the day, like like you're always going to feel behind. So I'd be remiss to not bring that up. If there are some activities that is kind of holding you back, be really honest about those, because you're never going to feel you're in control of your day if your kind of main foundation, the temple, if you will, that you operate out of is super dirty and cluttered. Like you need to have that cleaned up. And whenever you do that in conjunction with processes and cleaning up your business, applying some of the tactics that we talked about today, you're going to feel so much more in control of your day and of your business, and that it's going to produce a lot of long-term value and what you're really risking it all to be on this venture for.
Absolutely. It's a really, really good point.
Any final thoughts or questions or anything on managing time before we close out here, Coby? This was a great
Uh,
points that you had, man.
it's tough, no matter what, to manage your time. It's something you always have to be paying attention to, no matter what stage in your business you're at. Um, but I think if you had to pay attention to one thing that would make it easier to manage your time, it would be make sure that your pricing is correct.
Hmm. Wise words. I'll close with saying, to give yourself grace. Business is hard. Life is hard. You're gonna have good days, good months, good weeks, bad weeks, etc. And giving yourself grace when you're like, oh my gosh, I know I've been working long weeks, and I know I'm kind of getting on the nerves of my wife or whoever. Like give yourself grace. And I was watching this great interview this morning actually, and this guy was talking about the greatest skill, the greatest thing to develop in life is not so much like, oh, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a handyman, I want to do this and that to secure my financial future and have a career. The best skill is to be adaptable, that adaptability. And I think that that certainly applies to entrepreneurs. Like you have to roll with the punches. You've got to enjoy the good times and enjoy the bad times as well. You've got to be adaptable to changes that are going to happen. Unexpected things are going to come up in your business and technology, etc. Giving yourself grace, being adaptable, I think is really important to remember. It's never going to be a straight line to that success roadmap that you've laid out for yourself. Um, Coby, thanks for your sharing your experience managing time. Uh, to our listeners, if you have any questions, topic ideas, drop us a comment. We read them. We will reply to you. And thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode.